Good morning, I'm Sveva and I'm the first speaker of the proposition team. Today we're here to discuss this topic. This house regrets the spread of pop psychology. We were given an info slide with the motion that says that pop psychology is an umbrella term that covers any psychological ideology, therapy, or technique that gain popularity through a book, TV show, or blog post. To analyze the motion, we would like to specify some definitions by which we interpreted the topic. First of all, by regret, we mean having a negative opinion about something that has been done or has happened in the past. By spreading, we mean gaining popularity. And finally, by psychology, we mean the study of the characteristics of the mind, and in this context, the human mind. Nowadays, as social media, the non-professional writers and film industry have arisen, pop psychology has spread a lot among individuals, also affecting society as a group. This is a very important topic because pop psychology could lead to major issues due to its large impact on nowadays society. To deepen and analyze the motion even more, we analyze the different stakeholders. So by that, the stakeholders involved in the topic. We took in consideration the individuals, professionals, and the writers of books, the blog post writers, and the filmmakers. After having introduced this topic, we would like to give you a framework of the points that are going to be given by our team to support our thesis. We're going to give you 3 main points. I'm going to analyze the first one, and the second speaker will deepen the remaining 2 points. The first point says that pop psychology, as it derives from unreliable sources, would most of the time not be trustworthy. The second point states that having widespread misinformation, people would start to self-diagnose. The third point will put in line the social and economical impact that pop psychology has on society. I'm now going to analyze the first point. So the first point said that pop psychology, as it derives from unreliable sources, would most of the time not be trustworthy. Psychological ideologies that derive from books, TV shows, or blog posts wouldn't always be confirmed by professionals who studied the subject. Therefore, it could lead to spreading a lot of misinformation. And this factor is a very big problem nowadays, because we don't know what to believe and what not to believe anymore. That's also because, for example, there have been more unprofessional writers nowadays that still publish books on unconfirmed websites. This factor and the fact that it's known that blogs on social media aren't always trustworthy confirm the unreliability of pop psychology. That's a very big problem nowadays because misinformation has always been discussed. The fake news and the false information is a very heated topic at the moment. For example, recently with the COVID-19, young people started writing on platforms such as Wattpad, who offers through the books that are public a vision of the world that is not trustworthy nor reliable. People might think that not everyone will believe what is written by very young people, but the same young people would read on these books and. Yes.
I wanted to ask you if do you have an example of a book published on Wattpad that contains references to mental illnesses, direct references?
Unfortunately, since this is not a prepared debate, we couldn't find some real evidence because we didn't have access to outside information. But in general, there are a lot of books that talk about illnesses, but not just mental illnesses. In general, topics that people might believe. Also techniques and, as the motion says, therapies or techniques. Thank you for your POI. As I was saying, not everyone would want to believe what a 13-year-old has to say, but other 13-year-olds would read on this website not knowing that is actually false information, even if it's done involuntarily. That will lead to negative aspects. I would like to reiterate that misinformation is a very important fact, because pop psychology, everyone might think that they could find other people that understand their situation, that they will feel comforted by other people who have the same problems, but that would mean also self-diagnosing, which is a very bad thing. Also the COVID-19 has spread it a lot, this phenomenon, and a lot of people who aren't certified would find themselves writing something that they actually don't think, because of a situation that has been created because of the pandemic. So after having Reverend supported our thesis, having brought some examples, and having given a framework of the points that are going to be later discussed, I would like to conclude my speech.
Thank you for your speech. It lasted 6 minutes 41.
If everyone is ready, the first speaker for the opposition team can start.
My speech will start in 3, 2, 1. Good morning, everyone. I'm Roberta, and I'm the first speaker of the opposition team. Today, we're here to tackle the following motion. This House regrets the spread of pop psychology. But this team does not agree with the motion, and because our team thinks that in reality the diffusion of pop psychology had a positive impact worldwide, and we will demonstrate this through 3 fundamental points: mental health awareness, beyond the stereotypes and taboos, and the third point will be self-acceptance and representation. But before explaining the first 2 points, I would like to redefine the terms of the motion. The term psychology refers to the field of medical science focused on analyzing human behavior, human relations, and psychological traits in general. In the recent years, thanks to the spread of social media, psychology, and especially certain psychological techniques have become more popular among people. And the term pop psychology specifically refers to this. Before analyzing explaining the first 2 points, I also would like to rebut the last intervention of the proposition team. In fact, the first speaker of the proposition team stated that social media and TV shows or books are unreliable sources to understand more things about mental health and mental illnesses in general. But in reality, we have some examples that testify that this is untrue. In fact, for example, during the last few months and during the last year, has become more and more popular the theory that is commonly known as the theory of the red flags, which is a theory that is actually used by psychologists in order to identify a certain behavior, a certain behavior that characterizes a type of a person that needs to be avoided. And during therapy sessions, it is a very used technique. Also, the first speaker of the proposition team stated that self-diagnosis is not a good thing, but in in reality, my team will affirm that self-diagnosis is helping people to feel self-conscious about their mental illnesses and to understand better what psychology is. Now, I'd like, yes, please.
So you stated that you think that people should feel self-conscious about their mental illnesses.
I think having sources to understand by themselves what mental health is and what mental illnesses are is important, because if not, it will be impossible to address this topic and I'll also, it will be impossible to actually understand that you need to go to therapy, or that it is needed to change something about the mental health phenomena. Now, thank you for your POI. I would like to continue with my speech by explaining the first point of our team line, which regards mental health awareness. In fact, before the spread of pop psychology, nobody actually knew what mental health was truly. In fact, many people did not know that so many mental illnesses existed, such as the bipolar disorder or the borderline disorder. And thanks to the spread of pop psychology, it became possible to actually understand what these disorders are and to recognize the symptoms of this disorder, and actually understanding that it's needed to go to therapy and to change something. I would like to also make an example that concerns body positivity. In fact, before the spread of pop psychology, nobody knew what body dysmorphia is. And body dysmorphia is a disorder that makes people have a wrong image of their body, and that will cause many insecurities. But thanks to the spread of pop psychology, people finally understood what body dysmorphia was, and actually try to help, even without professional help, by raising awareness about the fact that there was nothing wrong with having different body types, and by the diffusion of the phenomena of body positivity, then it's actually and practically helping many people into going past their insecurities. Yes.
You said that the body dysmorphia was a very talked about topic, but also there was the new insecurities were talked about on the internet, and the internet was the cause of new insecurities.
I don't think that the internet caused the body dysmorphia, because it has always existed, because women were always forced to conform to certain beauty standards that now are certainly different from the past, but it doesn't change the fact that beauty standards always existed, and also with that body dysmorphia existed because women and people in general were insecure about the fact that their body was not similar to the beauty standard. Now I would like to explain the second point of our team line, which is about beyond stereotypes and taboos. I would like to make an example because I want to state that in the past, nobody actually, people thought that mental illnesses were a thing that characterized only people that needed to be marginalized and that were identified as weird. For example, the philosopher Nietzsche was mentally ill, and for many years experts were influenced by the fact that he was mentally ill, when they were trying to judge and criticize his philosophy. So in the past few years, in the past decades, there were also taboos. In fact, people were not free to express themselves, and if they had a mental disorder, they were forced to hide it. Thank you for your time.
So you, okay, 8 minutes and 5 seconds. Check.
Thank you for your speech. The second speaker for the proposition team can now start his speech.
My speech will start in 3, 2, 1. Good morning and welcome to everyone to this debate. My name is Giorgio and I am the second speaker of the proposition team. To start off, I'd like to go back to the motion which states that this House regrets the spread of pop psychology, which is said to be an umbrella term that covers any psychological ideology, therapy, other technique that gained popularity through a book, TV show, or blog post. I'd like to briefly get your attention to what our first speaker, Sveva, said, since we think that it is always she talked about the fact that many sources are not reliable, and to us it's really very, very relevant and important to always be sure and aware of what we find on the net and all the sources we use. So these are important values which can be neglected. Having said this, I intend to offer to you some rebuttal to what the first speaker of the opposition team said, and then I'm going to deepen the second and the third argument of our team line. To criticize what the other team said, I like to report what they stated. So, as the first argument, they talked about mental health awareness, and so they focused on the fact of giving information to people so that they can understand, so that people can understand problems, whatever they have, and I think that self-diagnostic is important for self-consciousness, but actually giving information to people, if these sources are not reliable, this information are very likely to be not reliable. So people can also understand their problems, but if you make use of something that is not proved, that is not reliable, you should. Yes.
Don't you think that people would be able to make a difference between information that are proven to be true from information that don't have proofs that support them?
No, I think not, because if people, most of the times, people don't know who is the writer of the blog, who is the producer of the film, who is the writer of the book. So it's really very rare and very difficult to be aware of who are you reading about or are listening about, for example. Having said this, having rebutted the opposition team's claims, it's now time for me to propose to you 2 more arguments, as the first speaker previously disclosed. So the second of our 3 main points focuses on self-diagnosing. So what we mean is that everyone can decide alone what problems they have, what illnesses they have, because they are influenced by what they see or what they listen. This is a huge problem because no one should be ever influenced by what they look up on the net, for example, especially if the writers, as we previously said, is not reliable. And so it's also really important to note that Nowadays, if pop psychology further spreads, people wouldn't go anymore visiting the doctors, the psychologists, and so that would be also really damaging for the doctor themselves. As I'm going to deepen later, and but it is also damaging for the individuals because they lose reliable sources. Since we absolutely believe that doctors and specialized people are obviously reliable sources. And so this can be connected to what she said before. And furthermore, self-diagnosing leads to undeniable damages. Yes.
Don't you think that people, rather than feeling influenced by what they see, what they hear on social media, would rather feel represented and then seek professional help?
I think that if doctors and specialized people are persons who have studied throughout all their life to make what they do, and I'm not saying that writers can be trustworthy, but it's not necessarily it's not something that always happens. In most of the cases, they aren't reliable at all, and this isn't the same for someone who does this throughout all the life. And moving on to our third point, it aims to show that the spread of pop psychology can bring so many consequences to every single persona, and especially I want to focus on the social and economical impact. The economical impact is very relevant because if more and more people stop going to specialized doctors, the doctors could be very likely to lose their work or to be less paid. And on the other hand, I think that the social impact is far more important. In fact, we recognize the social aspect as a really relevant values. With all these obstructions and obstacles, in many cases, the primal and regional that would be the primal and regional boundary that would be established between professional and the public and the patients is lost, and so to saying this, we think that it's pretty obvious that it's good not to repeat the error of allowing the spread of pop psychologists because of all the examples and the evidence and the arguments that we brought. And so I'm now going to conclude my speech. And since I talked about two more arguments and also reiterated what the first speaker said and taking also into consideration their rebuttal. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Rafaela Carrillo, and I'm the second speaker of the opposition team. And before exposing the third point of our team line, I would like to rebut some affirmations which Giorgio and also Sveva, the speakers of the proposition team, stated. First of all, I want to rebut this affirmation. Writers publish books based on what they see on unconfirmed websites. Well, that in the case of Wattpad, but books, books we can find in libraries before being published, they pass through the checks of publishers, of the directors of publishing houses. So this is correlated with what we are going to tackle later. because before addressing delicate issues in books or movies, doctors are involved too, helping people who are not experts in this field portray stories about mental health. The first speaker also said, yeah.
Don't you believe that books that are sold in libraries are more projected for an economic retribution and therefore might not necessarily have scientifically relevant information?
Well, yes, but it should be, well, not, well, yes, when it comes to economics, but even doctors do their job in order to gain money, but books sold in libraries, as I previously stated, they pass through the checks of publishers, of editors, so they have to correct mistakes, inform themselves, even involve experts in these fields, because books published for important book houses, for instance, cannot afford to make such mistakes. Can I continue with my speech, please? Thank you for your POI. Also, I wanted to say that the first speaker of the proposition team said that people might elude themselves, feeling erroneously represented while misdiagnosing themselves. But self-diagnoses are also common when it comes to physical problems affecting the body, and in that case, people verify the veracity of their self-diagnosis going to the doctor. So I want to correlate this with an affirmation of the second speaker of the proposition team, according to which doctors can lose their work if people self-diagnose themselves on the internet. But aren't you rebutting your affirmation, saying that, you know, internet for people, social impact is more relevant? And also, we believe that, well, looking at information on the internet will maybe encourage people to go to the doctor to take care of their mental health, because if people believe that they have an illness, they want to get a cure, and in order to get prescriptions for some medicines, people need to go to the doctor. And now that I finished with my rebuttal, I would like to expose the third point of our team line regarding self-acceptance and media representation. So there are many people, in fact, who have mental health issues, clinically diagnosed problems, who did not accept themselves, who felt marginalized and misrepresented. Thanks to the spread of pop psychology, there are more social media pages acknowledging these problems, and also influencers sharing their experience so that people can maybe feel represented. Another great source of representation is given by TV series, where directors include in their storylines characters with mental health issues in order to normalize them. Of course, these, as I've previously stated, are delicate subjects, so these issues are dealt with extreme, we could say, accuracy, asking, as I've previously asserted, for medical opinion, medical advice. Also, actors need medical advice in order to portray the best of their capabilities, mental illnesses, and to prove the veracity of what I'm asserting, I'm bringing to the table some examples. For instance, in popular TV series such as Shameless, there are two characters having bipolar disorders, a mother and a son. It shows that the two, being different people, have dealt with this issue in two different ways. The mother refused to go to the doctors, she refused her diagnosis, to take her medicines, to go to psychiatric wards to get a cure, but her son, with many hardships, was able to go to psychiatric wards to get a cure and to manage his condition. So this series showed not only that bipolarism, even though it's a mental illness, it's common, but that it, not in all cases, it can jeopardize the life of an individual, and yes, going to the doctor and getting a cure, well, to manage, it's possible. Well, sometimes, though, in TV series, there can be oversimplifications of mental illnesses. In fact, I want to mention another popular TV series known as Scam, where one of the main characters has BPD, well, borderline personality disorders, and she is often mentioned, she does not always appear because she's always in psychiatric wards, but that this character, even though she finds really hard to manage her mental illness, she goes to school like everyone else, she has a healthy relationship, not jeopardized by her illness. So these two are many of the examples I could mention, but thanks to these representations, mentally ill people feel less marginalized in a world who misunderstood them for too many times. So they show that these representations show that mental health matters, that people who suffer from mental health issues are valid. So don't you think that without representation, well, also granted by the spread of phenomenon of pop psychology, mental ill people would feel excluded, and that will eventually worsen their conditions? So for the reasons we have just stated, we cannot help but disagree with the motions, according to which, well, there's a regret to the spread of pop psychology. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your speech. It has lasted for 6 minutes and 51 seconds. The third speaker for the proposition team can now start his speech.
Okay. My speech will begin in 3, 2, 1. Good afternoon. My name is Martin van Leeuwen, and I'm the third speaker for the proposition team. Today, I would like to start out by illustrating a framework of the line I'm going to follow during my speech. I will start off by defending my teammates' claims, after which I will offer some rebuttal of my own to what the opposition team has said. And then I will go on to recap our main 3 points of our team line by further defining and explaining what we meant with our interpretation. So I will start off with defending my teammates. A few examples that the opposition team brought was how social media, or in general books, or certain shows can in fact be reliable sources. However, what we intend in pop psychology and mostly the stakeholders, it often spreads amongst young people that in reality might not have the linguistic capabilities, or in general the knowledge to be able to nitpick the articles or books that have correct scientific information, but most importantly of all, might not have the abilities to comprehend properly done studies, and therefore wanting to obtain a specific result would end up deciding to search and read only books that give them the specific result that they want to obtain. I'll now take your POI.
I wanted to ask you, when you talk about people that wouldn't be able to choose the information that they are reading, who are you referring to exactly?
Well, we can refer to, in reality, a large majority of people, as mental health is, in fact, a very delicate topic that has only emerged in recent years. And therefore, people might not really be conscious on many different factors. But it can also range to, adolescents that still do not have the ability to understand specific scientific studies. Or it can even range to maybe older generations that might not have the ability to distinguish between fake news and what is actually factual. In fact, this is a problem that reoccurs on all ages and is particularly relevant for all kinds of people. Thank you for your POI. Another thing they said was how self-diagnosis is good, as it in fact pushes people, once they understand their condition, to go and search for professional health. However, we do not believe this to be true, as everybody knows, when you search on the web for specific conditions, it often connects you to a wide range of mental illnesses or issues, or even particularly dangerous diseases that people might therefore try to utilize to explain their condition, and therefore end up thinking that they in reality have a problem that is much more dangerous than what it actually is. It comes down to a very important line that often gets said when studying psychology and media. Correlation does not equal causation. So if you can correlate to a study, it does not often really mean that it refers to, that is the correct factual study that you need to take from to understand your mental illness. Another thing that the opposition team talked about a lot and emphasized were the differences between the world before pop psychology and afterwards. More in specific, the talking about mental illnesses and body dysmorphia, and how having been kind of made a common topic, they have eliminated certain taboos. However, we don't believe this to be 100% true, as social media ends up being a sort of double-edged sword, as you can for sure find certain people that maybe try and comfort and relate with other people that have certain mental disabilities, but there is also unfortunately a large part on social media that comes to shaming certain conditions that in reality leads people to feel a lot worse about themselves. This also ties into the fact of cyberbullying, of people that are different. And also to end my rebuttal, I wanted to talk about as they presented an example of how certain TV shows also do a good job of representing mental illnesses. However, Shameless is also a kind of a delicate show that shows aspects of society, and it does a really good job of that, but there are a large amount of other shows that do not have an effective representation of mental illnesses. And in fact, many TV shows have been criticized throughout the years and have caused public outrage because of their incoherent representation of mental illnesses. Having finished my rebuttal, I will now pass on to recapping our 3 main points of our team line. The first main point of our team line talks about non-reliable sources, and how in fact people on the web also tend to write articles also to gain media traction, even though they might not. Yes.
Before, during your rebuttal, you were saying that, well, people who share their experiences on social media, they might be subject to it, but don't you think that the absence of representation and of awareness also given by social media leads to even more shaming and hate?
Yes, it does lead to more shaming and hate. That is, it's a delicate topic, however, because you will always have people, even when they understand a topic, they have full conscience about how something works or the differences of people. There will always be discrimination in society because of a person who is different, even when a concept is popularized is not the right term, but I think I get my point across. So moving on to recapping our team line, we were talking about how the phenomenon of fake news has also become even more popular and accentuated in recent years by social media. And our second main point, on the other hand, highlights how a large quantity of misinformation leads people to self-diagnose, and therefore also maybe start taking medication or follow treatments that might not be effective to solve the issue that they might have, as it is not correct. This also ties into a psychological aspect called Verse-Burgess syndrome, in which people tend to not believe and have trust in professionals anymore, and therefore prefer to opt and try and treat themselves on their own, but often end up doing worse. Our third and final point, on the other hand, to conclude, talks about how the fact that pop psychology has a large social and economic impact, and therefore how it reduces the relationships between professionals and people, and also has an economic impact, as often people trying to gain traction would end up maybe publicizing a book or a study that might not really be targeted to helping, but moreover to try and gain economic or monetary retribution. Thank you, my speech is now finished.
Thank you for your speech. Just lasted for 8 minutes and 30 seconds.
Hello everyone, I'm Manuela and I'm the third speaker of the opposition team. Today I'm here to do a summary of what my team line was. But first thing first, I'd like to rebut what the proposition team affirmed. So first thing first, they talked about how pop psychology is not trustworthy. They said that we don't know what to believe because there are many unconfirmed websites, there is misinformation, and that is truly a big phenomenon that has been on the internet for a long time. So because of that, we don't believe that people aren't actually able to differentiate what is actually true from what actually is not. And indeed, the fake news has been something that people have been talking about for a really long time, and people are aware of it. The proposition team based their argumentation mostly on the fact that people are easily influenced, but as I made a POI to the second speaker of the proposition team. I asked if rather than being influenced, they started to feel accepted and represented, and they didn't actually rebut this POI. So I wanted to underline the fact that people are actually feeling a lot more represented nowadays with pop culture. And indeed, this is deeply connected with our first point, that is the increase of awareness. So now people are able to differentiate, to differ bad behaviors from good ones. Another thing I would like to say is that you talked about media as this place where there are no reliable sources. But because people write about their issues, and they're not always, of course, psychologists that write this information. But what you didn't take into consideration is the fact that people don't always want to represent the issues as it is, but they just want to talk about their experience. They want to share how they feel about that. And that is not something unreliable, because people can perceive things differently, and people can feel represented by what another just said about themselves or about the issues, the disorder, the psychological state they're in, and you cannot say that is false, because each people can feel represented, can feel differently certain things. Going on to another thing I would like to rebut is the second point of the proposition team. They talked about self-diagnosis, but what they really focused on was the fact that when people self-diagnose, then they don't actually search help from psychologists or therapists or people who are actually competent in this field. But what I would like to say is that as we demonstrated through our points, the spreading of pop culture actually allowed to go beyond stereotypes, beyond taboos. So when people feel they are being represented by a certain statement, a certain movie, that when they're showing a book, when they're showing a mental illness, or when they're showing a different state of mind, they are not actually always self-diagnosis. They are just accepting, they are just being conscious of what could be the issues. They could have the same issues, the same issue that is being represented. And so That's why seeking professional help is always the most important thing. That does not go separate ways from self-diagnosis. They could be connected. Going on, I would like to rebut another thing. They talked about the economic impact as their third point. They firstly talk about how the economic impact is actually really relevant, but then they started to rebut themselves by saying that social impact is more relevant. So I don't know which one of this is true. And thanks to a POI that we did on the second speaker, they talked about books in general and how they do not have reliable information. But as we have said during our debate or during this debate session, there are different types of books. So there are certainly books in which people are going to talk about medical issues in specific ways. And so the topic, the issues, is really actually reliable. And then there are also books in which the mental issue is not the main topic of the book, and so it will not be the first concern. But that does not mean that it has only an economical meaning. Indeed, saying that even books that talk about psychology just want to gain money, and so to defend your point about the economic impact, it's not really meaningful, because then every book that share knowledge about any other topic could be just a way for people to make more money. So we should not really consider the economic impact. Rather, we should consider how it increases awareness, as we underlined through our first point, how it can go beyond, how it allows people to go beyond stereotypes, beyond taboos, as we explained through our second point, and then also to and also leads to self-acceptance, as we explained to our third point. Indeed, we talked about how main issues, main topics like toxic relationships with the red flags that the first speaker explained are now a system that is even used in psychology, in therapy. Yes?
Mi è sfuggito, no? Quanto l'avevi
7,27.
Funziona? Voi avete abbiamo tenuto il tempo questa volta.
Ah, no,
Mi è
non
sfuggito.
ce non l'abbiamo tenuto.
7,27.
Ah, ok. Then, with the second point, protected time. With the second point, we analyzed its positive impact, and with the third, we analyzed the representation in media and how it has led to a really positive impact on self-acceptance. Thank you for your time, and this is the end of my speech.
Throughout this debate, the opposition and the proposition team tackled three main clashes. The first clash regarded the topic of self-diagnosis. In fact, this topic was firstly brought up by the proposition team, and whose speaker said that self-diagnosis is caused by unreliable sources, and that is actually a bad thing, because people could self-diagnose them many different diseases, but actually the opposition team rebutted by saying that self-diagnosis is important for being self-conscious, since before pop psychology was before the spread of pop psychology, nobody actually knew what many disorders were, and in fact, many people are now able to recognize that they are suffering from a mental health problem, and so they will be capable to then to later go to talk with a specialist or a doctor or a psychologist about their problem, while before they wouldn't be able to do that because they didn't even know that many disorders existed. The second point of clash regards the topic of awareness, which was brought up by my team, the opposition team. In fact, it was one of the points of our team line, and awareness is one of the most important topics of this debate, since when it comes to pop psychology, it's only thanks to that that people are now aware of the existence, as I said before, of certain disorders, but also are able to recognize unhealthy behavior from other people without falling, for example, for the red flag system that I have talked about before during my speech. The proposition team rebutted the topic, our point by saying that in reality there is the risk of misinformation, since it would be impossible for people to actually divide from information that have been proven from the information that actually haven't been. But the third speaker of my team rebutted by saying that in reality, people will be perfectly capable of doing that. And the third point of clash, which was brought up during the last phase of this debate, is discrimination. In fact, the proposition team stated that misinformation could cause hate. But since they think that the current media could brought this information, but my team rebutted by saying that also avoiding talking about these topics will cause hate, because not knowing what mental illnesses are would lead people to discriminate and to make people that suffer from mental health issues feel marginalized. To conclude my speech, I would like to conclude it with a question. Would it be fair to tell people that to tell mental ill people to go back into hiding? I think that my team has proven through evidence that this would not be fair.
Thank you for your speech. That's started for me and the 17 The position team can now do the last speech.
My reply speech will start in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to everyone again. My name is Giorgio, and it's now time for me to dedicate myself to the reply speech. I think we have just had a great and interesting debate whose motion is the following. This House regrets the spread of pop psychology. To conclude this debate, I'm now going to underline those who I think to be the most important points that emerged during the whole discussion, starting off by highlighting the three main contrasting points between the two teams and the two positions which were discussed during the debate. Next, I'm going to define the most important values of both the teams and the two different worldviews that we have brought in order to demonstrate, to try to demonstrate the effectiveness of our thesis. First off, as I said before, I intend to examine the three main points of clash. The first one is self-diagnostic, because to them, they think that it is good to have self-diagnostic in order to discover about mental health problems and illnesses. while we reiterated that I reiterated before during my argument as a second speaker the damages that it would bring. The second point of clash is the reliability of books, since also this was object of POI, since they think that books can be reliable, while we don't think so, because especially in this case it's not possible to rely on such books or even also films or posts. And the third point and last one is the awareness. So we propose two different ways to reach awareness, because we try to propose our way is through reliable resources, and so of course specialized people and doctors, psychologists, while what they thought was the promotion of pop psychology, and so the awareness was one of the benefit of this in their opinion. As a result, it was possible to underline the main values of both the teams, since the main values they intended to defend were the awareness of mental problems, and also the representation and the self-acceptance. On the other hand, we intended to defend with our thesis the values of reliability, the value of safety on what we choose and decide, and also the social and economical values which we recognize to be the basis of any society, and so really relevant, and also transparency and the importance of to have relationships. And to conclude, I also like to leave you with a question in response to what was your question. And so my question to you is, would you rather protect yourself and most of all your health and your safety, relying on something proved and trustworthy, or on something which could turn out to be unfounded? And so in light of everything set up until now, we urge you to take our side. I'd like to thank all the judges and also you as the speakers of the opposition team.